I have to take a break from working on this musical cuckoo clock, 30-hour musical cuckoo clock, because one of my subscribers and good friend of mine um, bought one of these clocks, and he needs some help with his. This is a E Schmeckenbecher musical cuckoo clock for Seth Thomas. And these are the oompa players on top. Now, I had to glue my oompa players in place. They're supposed to, as this thing rotates, they're supposed to spin around, but I think somebody who had the clock before me was working on this clock, and they ordered the wrong main wheel for the music box. They make them to where they are clockwise and counterclockwise rotation. And I was new at repairing cuckoo clocks, and I didn't realize that. And so I end up getting frustrated with this clock. So I fixed it the way I could fix it. This clock was made in 1972. As you can see, the date code of 25 and 72 on it. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take this movement out. It needs cleaned anyway. There's spider webs all over the place. And I got to put change back on it. This was one of those clocks that my pet raccoon got into all the time and messed up the chains. So anyway, we're gonna take this thing apart so I could take pictures of it to show him. So taking the bird, releasing the bird from its door. And then taking a screwdriver to take the movement out. So stand by and let me take the movement out. As you will see, there's a small E-clip here, and then there's this great big E-clip here. And if I was to take this great big E-clip off, it's a convex clip. You could take the dancers off now. Without taking that E-clip off, you can't take the dancers off. But this little bitty E-clip is to hold this plastic gear on, and that's where that big convex clip comes into play. Now, the bottom of these used to have two little pieces. It was designed differently, but I broke them off because as the wheel rotated, and I also ground some clips off. You can see I have my Dremel in this thing. What happened is, as it rotated, it came up to those certain pieces, and the figures would move the other way. But this I want to make the thing spin around. Give me a second so I can make it spin around. Yeah. As it rotates, you can see the direction it's rotating in. And let me put this back on here. As it rotates, it wouldn't, the guys wouldn't spin going this way. They would spin going this way just fine. Okay, but they wouldn't spin going this way. And I believe that this ratchet wheel right here is the wrong ratchet wheel for making the original platform to spin. If you get on Time Savers, they make a clockwise ratchet wheel and they make a counterclockwise ratchet wheel. I tried making this thing in the other direction and I never could. I should have just bought a clockwise and a counterclockwise ratchet wheel to make these guys spin the other way, and then it would have worked just fine. But anyway, it doesn't work anymore because I ground these pieces off and I broke these pieces off, but it still works. They still spin. The platform still spins. It's just that the music folks no longer turn because I glued them in place. And so, again, it's a Schmeckenbecher. It was made in 1972, and I have a video that explains this system right here. This is a Schmeckenbecher system. When the cuckoo is cuckooing, this lever right here stops the governor band on the music box from spinning. And it cannot spin because of this lever right here. So when it's done cuckooing, it drops out of the way, which allows the music box to spin. This section right here is what stops the music box from spinning when it's done. We're going to rotate it. This moves back and forth. There's a spring on it. This moves back and forth. And just like in other music boxes, the purpose behind that spring is to make the governor band stop at the very last note of the music. And if your governor band isn't stopping at the very last note of the music, then you have to adjust this piece right here. And I'm making it go the wrong way. This particular governor band sorry, this particular music box on this particular clock spins this way. If I was to had a ratchet wheel that spun this way, then the dancing platform would have worked just fine. But I think somebody else worked on this thing and they ordered the wrong great wheel. So anyway, I'm going to clean up this clock and I still got to put bellows in it and chains, and I want to put a chain on this thing to make sure it is ticking away just fine. And last time I worked on this thing, it ticked away just fine before, but I just want to make sure that way I don't have to take this thing back apart and do it again. His is a little bit different setup than mine. But here's the oompa players. It's got a lady and a guy on the front. But you do not see these oompa players that often. And here's his music box. Same setup as mine. Now, I've seen one about 2 or 3 years ago, exactly like this one, on Etsy, and it was selling for about $450. It's no longer on Etsy. I don't know whether they sold it or whether they chose to take it down or whatever, but I've only seen this particular model, mine, the one on Etsy, and maybe one other one. You know, some Schmeckenbecher clocks you see quite often, such as the woodsman's clock with or without water wheel, and then some of the Schmeckenbecher clocks you rarely see, such as this one. Or the one like his, I've never seen that particular model before either. Now, Schmeckenbecher made a couple of different systems. In this particular system, the people got these little round pieces underneath them, and so as it rotates, they are constantly rotating when they are hitting these bumps. Because of the round system. Now on the other system, like I said, I don't remember exactly how it looked. Maybe my friend could send me a picture, but they had a different setup that would go along, and when they got to a certain point on this one or on this one, it caused them to rotate like 90 degrees, where these are constantly turning as the platform turns. These are constantly turning. when they're working right. But anyway, different systems. But this system right here is a Schmeckenbecher setup. It is also what is on the cathedral clock. This is a Schmeckenbecher setup, and this convex washer puts just enough pressure on the platform to so the platform isn't wobbly like on my cathedral clock. That way it's not wobbly as it rotates. But this plastic wheel here, that this convex washer fits on, often gets broke as you put the clip on. The very top part often gets broke off. So that's something that you gotta watch also. Even the door has got the Seth Thomas original sticker on it. Here it says the category, the name, Bolt's Cuckoo Musical Chalet 30-hour, model 1704, which is the same as a cat. I don't know where they got that model from, but it says Seth Thomas Tally Industries Company, Thomaston, Connecticut, USA, made in Germany, and then it shows a date of February 1973. Here it shows January of 1973. And I also want to show you that I did not glue these folks to. The only thing I did was snip the bottom piece off. So if I ever come across a movement that has this platform, I can change out the platform. Now this one here is stuck. He might have got glued, but the rest of them turn around, so I can rotate them to put them where I want. Like I said, this one is stuck. There we go. So maybe one day I'll fix it right. Here's a part that goes to the musical dancing platform. These people have got it marked, identified wrong. This goes to a Schmeckenbecher musical platform. $70 plus shipping. Another $6 for shipping. If you needed this is what you could do. This wheel is what goes to the Timeside Great Wheel, which is right here, to get the minute wheel to turn. A person, if they had extra ones of these on hand, which, if you repair clocks, cuckoo clocks for a living, you need to have these on hand, because these crack and break. And when they crack, you can glue them, but when they break, the minute wheel will no longer turn. The minute arbor with center wheel will no longer turn, because it's the great wheel with this plastic wheel on it that makes it turn. But what I'm getting at is this fits over this shaft. And as you can see, it causes this plastic wheel to turn, but the teeth are a little bit longer than what it needs to be. So you could take a Dremel with a cutting wheel on it and make these grooves longer. That way they fit on here. And then take a, now you have to have a plastic shaft. You could take an ink pen and drill out this to fit onto this wheel. Just some creative ideas that before I spent $76 on another one of these pieces, I would try to make one out of parts that I had laying around my house. Just my thoughts. And you always want to do a functional test before you put the movement back into the clock case. And I like turning the wheels hard. That way I know my functional test is going to work properly when a light weight gets on. Here the clock is cuckooing, and at the very end the lever goes into the what I call the Pac-Man's mouth. It goes underneath. The other lever is hitting the cuckoo locking bird, which brings it all back into place. Now I have to put this wheel, this contraption, back onto the clock. And it goes just like that. Now I'm going to finger tighten the nuts. Like I said, this contraption is for Schmeckenbecher clocks. Schmeckenbecher, they were very intelligent. They started in 1948 and they made clocks until they closed in 1996. So now you have to determine which way the wheel itself goes. So the ratchet wheel goes that way. That means your wheel turns this way. And you can see the white platform, the white wheel gear is moving. And now you want to do a function test. When you lift the lift lock lever, the lift lock lever is long enough that it lifts this piece of the music box, which starts the music in action if I was to have pressure on the wheel. When you put pressure on the wheel, this piece right here comes out of the notch on this cam, but this lever, which is part of the rack stop lever, prevents the governor fan on the music from playing until after it's done cuckooing. And when it's done cuckooing, it will drop enough to allow the ban on the to allow the ban on the governor of the music side to work. And this is why you don't tighten those nuts. You want to make sure it is all working before you tighten those nuts. And now I'm going to tighten the nuts, and then I'm going to do another functional test to make sure it is all working. Again, the lift lock lever, which lifts the rack stop lever, you have to know the name of the parts. You have to know what functions. This is the lift lock lever. The lift lock lever is what is rotated from the 2 pins on the minute arbor with center wheel when the hands rotate. And so after the lift lock lever lifts the rack stop lever, the rack stop lever can be, the clock is in motion for it to cuckoo. And then after it drops into place, it allows the governor fan on the music box to rotate if it had a weight on it for it to rotate. There's a little bit of resistance in this, so I have to adjust the platform here. This nut here, the holes are oblonged a little bit, so you can rotate this platform up and down. You see that? And so this gear here is what's being rotated up and down. This gear here, this pinion gear, catches the great wheel for the music. This is the pinion gear. And so you have to put it in place just enough for it to work properly. And if you got it too far down, you're going to have resistance. And if you have it too far away, it's not going to work. And so it has to be adjusted just right. And so you have to play around with it. You tighten it up. You rotate it until you are happy with it. Right here, the cuckoo's in the way, so now the cuckoo's out of the way, so now I can rotate this wheel. And I don't have resistance in it now, so now I can tighten up the nuts. And when you tighten up the nuts, you have to do another function test, because as you're tightening up the nuts, this thing can slide forward. So you want to do another function test to make sure it feels right. I hear something, and I don't like what I hear. And it's not stopping. And so I have to figure out why it's not stopping. I'm going to put a chain on it. I might be putting too much pressure on it. The ratchet wheel wasn't working, so I had to take it all apart. You have this click, this piece right here that catches onto the wheel that goes on this pin, and then the wire itself goes in that hole, but I have to make sure that I'm putting it on the right way, which I'm not. I have to turn it around. And then the wire, like I said, it goes in this hole. And so it would help if I had an extra set of hands. And some better eyes. I try to do things on camera, but sometimes this thing is 6 inches away from me, and it's hard to do things on camera sometimes. Okay, I got it in, so now I have to put this bushing back on. And then bead all this stuff back through. This is what turns the wheel, but it also is what prevents the gear from going too far to the right. And these screws are very touchy. You don't want to push. You don't want to tighten them up too much, is what I'm getting at. This compression clip, along with this washer, is what keeps the shaft and wheel from going to the left. But this compression clip, over time, it gets worn out. And so a new compression clip would be the best thing to put on this thing, because you don't want no end shake with this shaft. I have new compression clips, except for they're a pain in the butt, because I don't have the official compression clip tool. And with my homemade tool, the new compression clips tend to break off the end of my tips on my homemade tool. Now I have the ratchet wheel all sorted out. I'll have to adjust this when I put it into the case, but everything else is adjusted, and it's not going to ratchet until it's connected to all the parts, but the ratchet does work now, where before it was spinning both ways. So now I need to connect that little piece that's specifically for Schmeckenbechers, this piece right here back up. So I'm going to do that off camera. I've already showed you what to do on this thing, so we'll get back to you. I do want to mention, when you're putting this contraption on, there is barely any space between this wheel and this contraption. So make sure that you slide this contraption that way as much as you possibly can to prevent the wheel from hitting that contraption. With it on my test stand, and I can only put one arm on because of this contraption is in the way. And so with it on my test stand, as you can see, with the 320 weight, it operates just fine. But once you add the music to it, it's the big test. And a simple way to put the clock into the movement into the case, and with the chains, is put this into the hole where you hang the clock, and then with the chains halfway wrapped around the movement where they need to be, drop a chain down, and with a magnet you'll be able to you didn't see that, so I'm going to do it again. You'll be able to sort the chains, put the chains easily into the holes. Again, with a magnet. This is a magnet. I used to use a pair of tweezers with brass chains. I still do, but it is so much easier to do it this way when the chains are metallic. You just have the magnet sticking by the hole, and it'll grab a hold of the metal chain. Using a pair of tweezers, going up in there to get the chain, it can be done, but it's so much harder. It's so much easier this way. Now I have to put the movement into the case, connect the bird, adjust the music box, and put the screws into the, and then as you can see, I got the musicians off. That way it's easier to put the platform into the slot where it goes. After you get the case, the movement back in the case, more likely the cuckoo has been tripped, and so you want to trip the cuckoo and trip the music so you can loosen the screw that's attached to this wheel right here that goes to that gear. And then you want to finish the music. And you also want to finish the music on this drum, and then taking some come on, Mark, think. Rodico prevent the drum from spinning. And then hook that wheel up, tighten it up, then remove the Rodico. So that's what I'm going to do now. So if everything works right, when I trip this lever right here, which is what? The lift lock lever, it's going to cuckoo, and then the music's going to play. Woohoo! And the music stops right in the dead center of the space on the music drum. So there's this lever right here that you're supposed to be able to adjust the music with. The position of the drum. I don't have the screws tightened all the way down. So I need to do that and then do all these adjustments all over again. It's a video that I found on YouTube of this clock. As you can see, the people spin. I don't know when this was posted, 7 years ago. This was posted 7 years ago. And it's the first time I'm seeing this video. You don't see too many of these E Schmeckenbecher oompa player clocks. Now, because these music guys don't turn anymore, you'd want to put them wherever you want to put them as the platform moves. So I have to rotate it, stop it, put them where I want to, and I'm just going to have them facing the front for the most part. And then as it rotates, I have to make sure that they're not catching the door. And like here, this guy's going to catch the door, so I have to rotate him some so he doesn't catch the door. And then there's one that's missing the peg, and that's this guy right here. And I found a couple bellows that will work. High note, low note. However, these bellows go up here. And the bellow lift wire that goes from the high note lever on the movement to the bellow itself, it needs to be longer than this. This wire is 4.5 inches long. It needs to be around 6 inches or so because it has to travel. If I get the right bellow, this goes up here and has to travel from here all the way down to this high note lever here. And so, and one would think, because I own this cuckoo clock, that I would have those wires somewhere in my possession. But who knows what happens to my stuff. I've got a whole drawer full of cuckoo hardware which has to do with wires, but I don't have those wires long enough. I do, however, have some material on order through Time Savers. It should be here hopefully within another few days to a week. So until then, this clock is put on hold. I have some more adjustments to do to the music box. And until I get my bellow wires in, this is as good as it gets. Cuckoo. Cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. But give me a thumbs up. May God bless each and every one of you. Please leave me comments.